so you're living there in Bennett's Bridge. Obviously, you're in Cologne, Germany today. But like, what was the mood like after the league final, and what will be the mood like for Wexford? And again, you've been involved in club hurling down there in the past. After losing to Westmeath from 17 points up, they now have to beat Kilkenny to ensure survival in the Leinster Championship.
Yeah, that's that. I think I was listening to comments from I think it was Derek Ling on Monday morning that they're going down to really go at Wexford, and it's something that they want to win. So and again, no one likes to relegate a team like that. But I think Kilkenny after the league final we're kind of we're 10 points. We're still 10 points off Limerick here, and it's at the same time grinding out results. And again, if Kilkenny will be in the Leinster final, if Limerick are knocked the weekend, I think it gives everyone hope. I think Wexford are in a very it's a horrible position for Darrig and his management team to be in this week. 17 points up against Westmeath at home and losing the match is catastrophic stuff, and facing the trapdoor of relegation on top of all that now is very difficult. At the same time, Wexford, as we know, are hugely proud hurling people, and they will come together as regards to try to avoid the situation they're in. And I think, look, it'll be very difficult. I think Wexford probably had a lot of injuries over the year as well to key players, which didn't allow them to put their best team out. And Wexford probably don't have the depth of other counties, and that played a part in where they are at the moment. But not a nice place to be in for Wexford this weekend, and I think Kilkenny will be going for the throat and going to knock them out, because ultimately Wexford have beat them in a couple of big matches over the last couple of years, and the Kilkenny lads don't like the Wexford lads beat them in a couple of matches, so I think they'll keep them down as much as they can.
As the president of the Kilkenny fan club, Bernie, do you think that your boys can go down to Wexford and win?
Well, as Willie says there, Wexford beat them in 17, beat them in 19, beat them last year. I think it was pointed enough that Derek Ling did say like that we kind of owe them one, that they've beaten us a good few times recently. At the end of the day, for Kilkenny as well, like they might throw in a few like relatively new faces or whatever, but this is one of their like three really competitive games within Leinster. Do you know what I mean? The Galway game, the Dublin game. Galway is very competitive. Dublin maybe a little bit less so. But this should be, like, traditionally and historically in the last couple of years, would say it's going to be really competitive again. And you know, if Kilkenny go down there with the bit between their teeth, that could spell, you know, the unimaginable for Wexford. But I will say this about Wexford and Darragh Egan. So remember we were talking, Shane, after they got absolutely annihilated in the Walsh Cup final, annihilated, and they came back and beat the All-Ireland champions the week after and kept them to 11 points. They drew with Westmeath last year. Morale was on the floor, and they produced this astonishing performance down in Nolan Park, and they beat Kilkenny all ends up that day in one of, you know, what I would say is probably one of the worst Kilkenny performances under Brian Cody. So they can turn things around. This is a bit different though, isn't it? This feels a bit different. Like the mood music in the county, just listened a bit to Southeast Radio, and, you know, people calling for Darragh Egan's head, you know, before this game. People calling for the chairman's head before this game, which is a bit mad, really, because I'm not too sure what the chairman has to do with anything that's happened on the pitch. And by all accounts, financially, they're in a really, really good position. The mood just seems to be very, very downbeat, and it would take, I don't know what's been happening behind closed doors this week, but it would be a miraculous turnaround if they were to pull a win out of the bag. Especially like Theo Keefe comes on really late in the game the other day. Thought that was a strange one. Kevin Foley got no game time the other day. Are those boys going to come back in? Are they out of favour? I don't know. It kind of looked like they were trying to coast to the finish line against Westmeath the last day and get some minutes into lads, but not overexert themselves. And they got so badly stung that they're in a position where there's probably a greater likelihood of them being relegated than them staying up, I would say, at the moment, marginally.
Yeah, you Willie, you know Antrim, they're playing against Westmeath this weekend in Mullingar. Do you think, and like obviously Antrim had a tough one the last day against Galway, any of the we'll say top challengers are having tough times against Galway because they really know how to fill it teams. But do you see Antrim winning that game, and, you know, which then puts Wexford in a position where they have to win?
Like, again, very, very difficult as regards, like Westmeath are, you know, a decent outfit, and probably a more decent outfit at home, and Joe Fortune has done an unbelievable job as regards, particularly on last weekend, but also I suppose over the last the last 2 years. So I think it's a tough one. I think Antrim are probably in a good place as well. I think they're 4 or 5 years in with Darren Gleeson, and athletically, again, even we played them in the league match, and a big difference up there as regards in Corrigan Park, yes, but physically there are a lot of big men who are able to hurl, and they seem to be hurling to a system as well. So I think that'll be very, very tight. But again, the bounce surely that Westmeath would have got last weekend in Wexford, like you can't buy that kind of momentum as regards. You do something as a team and you beat a team like Wexford in that situation. Like that gives you unbelievable energy as a minnow coming up as regard playing the next game. So I think very tight. I'd fancy Westmeath to do it, but at the same time, geez, you just don't know.
Just on that chain as well, Westmeath didn't pick up any injuries by all accounts. Kieran Doyle went off tired near the end of the game. They have, don't get me wrong, they have Angus Clark that's not in there. Killian Doyle is not fit, and a couple of other kind of big names as well. But they have Niall Mitchell back. He's been out for about 16 weeks with a knee injury. Niall O'Brien is back as well. And as Willie says there, like surely they get a big bounce. And they're going back to Cusack Park, where it's been, the site of some of their really, really greatest results. I'm sure they want to try and keep things in their own hands as well. They get a result, they stay up back to back, retaining their status in Leinster. So it's just there's unimaginable consequences here between three teams at the top, and we're not sure. We know they're going to be in the top three, but we don't know in what order. 3 teams at the bottom, we know they're going to be in the bottom 3, but not in what order. And I just think these relegation style games, that's where real pressure is. And I know you played them one earlier on this year in the league game, Willie. That's real pressure. That's horrible pressure, and mad things happen in that scenario.
Absolutely, and like you go back to even to clubs, and I suppose we had the experience of Ballingarry being, I suppose, a senior for a lot of years, and ultimately getting relegated a couple of years ago. But we had gone to 5 or 6 or 7 relegation finals, semi-finals, and the pressure that's on a community. Similarly with the county this year, with Laois, we got relegated against Westmeath in an unbelievable game in Thurles, but it was just horrible. You don't know what to do, you don't know what to say to lads, because it's just something that you just don't want to be relegated, and it's a final that no one wants to be in. I think as regards even a big broader picture stuff, as regards our bigger picture stuff here, I think these teams that are hovering around, you see the effect of Westmeath now surviving over the last couple of years. That's been huge. Offaly, need to be back up there. Laois need to be in that situation. You don't want Wexford going down to McDonagh, and I don't know what the situation is like. These are situations that the teams that I suppose I'm operating now with Laois at this level, like we want to be playing higher level hurling because it's better for us as a county, and trying to make our players more accustomed to the demands across the board of preparation and everything else, because again the levels of preparation at the top teams is significantly better. You just need a group of players to buy into that to really go at this at the level. But I'd like to be playing at a higher level as opposed to the lower level, and again no one wants to be relegated. I think just trying to get the championship groups more inclusive and including more teams, I think would be a big step, particularly for the teams at our level.
Something here I wanted to bring up there. SSRI made a really good point. I think it was SSRI, one of many good points. He said, wonder will the GAA suddenly change their mind if Wexford finish bottom and organise a playoff with Joe McDonagh Cup winners to see who goes up or down. I just checked it out because I remember said it to you on Monday's show. I actually played in a relegation playoff, an All-Ireland relegation playoff in 2019. We beat Antrim 128 to 13 points, and Clare beat Wexford in the corresponding semi-final the same day, 214 to 218. And the Wexford Antrim playoff was never played. They made a decision thereafter not to relegate somebody, not to play that final game. I wonder will something similar happen here potentially. The one thing I will say is about people are saying, where were people when Offaly got relegated from the Leinster Championship? Offaly deservedly got relegated from the Leinster Championship after being resoundingly beaten in every game. They 100% deserved to be relegated. Wexford were Leinster champions 4 years ago, or could beat, a good few teams on a day. Could be really competitive with Waterford. We're really competitive with Clare last year, Dublin, Kilkenny, Galway. So I think it's a different scenario if they were to go down. And it's not good for Hurling. There's no point in saying any different. Whether you should change a rule or not, you probably shouldn't. But I'm just saying it's actually it's not a positive thing. And Hugh Paddy had good comment there about when Carlow win the McDonagh Cup at the weekend, that the McDonagh will be absolutely stacked next year. Awfully elite Wexford. I hope that's not the scenario, and I hope you're still there. But it's not good for anybody, particularly Wexford, and it's not good for Hurling if Wexford do get relegated. Hopefully they're able to work their way out with. But that's not to say that I want to see Westmeath or Antrim relegated. I don't. The more teams at the top table, the better. And like Westmeath, if Westmeath are relegated, how deflating would that be after 7 days after the greatest moment in your hurling history? Do you know what I mean? Antrim got the draw against Dublin, probably should have beaten them in the first round. And then if they get relegated as well, it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And I don't think that's good for anybody either.